The Mossad's reputation is celebrated, but even legends make mistakes. And in the 1970s, Mossad made a big one. Israeli foreign intelligence turned down a request to assassinate a rising Iranian extremist, thinking his own people would take care of him. But they didn't. And his regime has been terrorizing the region ever since. Welcome to the Islamic Republic of Iran. And we tell you what was Mossad's biggest mistake. In a shocking revelation in 2015, it was revealed that former Iranian Prime Minister Shapor Baktier, the last prime minister before the Islamic Revolution, asked Mossad agents in Tehran to assassinate the leader of the revolution, Ayatollah Khamenei. The new information was revealed with the release of a new book from Yassi Alfer, a former Mossad official. He said in his book that long-serving officer of the Mossad, Eliezer Safrir, received the request from Baktier in January 1979 to kill Khomeini, who was living in Paris at the time after being deported from Iraq. Iraq offered to hand Khomeini to the Sha in Iran to be executed, but the leader refused and Khomeini found asylum in France. Israel maintained a top-secret relationship with the Shahs of Iran and carried out deals that included extensive sales of arms produced in Israeli factories. Additionally, the two countries created an intimate relationship in the field of intelligence. The Shah of Iran was more interested in maintaining his power than building a democracy. He controlled the press, placed citizens on surveillance, and jailed and tortured dissidents. Iran's secret police, the Savak, was among the most fearsome in the Middle East. That's partially because many Iranians refused to recognize the Shah's authority. They saw him as a little more than a puppet of the West, mainly the Brits and the Americans. Opposition to the Shah was growing, and he knew it. But his most dangerous opponent wasn't the secular intelligentsia, the radical students, or even the middle class. It was a hard-lined religious cleric named Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Khomeini had the rare ability to appeal to a variety of people. Khomeini was disgusted by the Shah's reported human rights abuses, not to mention the hypocrisy of Western powers while supporting the Shah's regime. On the other hand, Khomeini also viewed the Shah's modernizations and reforms as an attack on Islam. He wanted a theocratic government, and the Shah, who liked his luxuries, wasn't exactly a pious ruler. Khomeini's words found an eager audience. He and his followers flooded Iran with cassette tapes with his fiery sermons. Soon they came together to form an angry movement. Shah then fled Iran, leaving a temporary prime minister to rule instead, Shapor Baktier. Within a day, Baktier turned to the Mossad with a request. Get rid of Khomeini, please. The Mossad knew Khomeini was bad news. Khomeini accused the Shah of being that Jewish spy, that American snake whose head must be crushed with a stone. So Israel considered the request. On the one hand, the guy was clearly bad news for Israel. But on the other, he was also a political leader. Khomeini had made some serious threats, but he hadn't actually committed any acts of terrorism. He may have been popular, but there was no way the Iranian military would let him take power. So the Mossad decided not to get involved. Like every other Western intelligence agency, they had underestimated Khomeini. Less than a month after the Shah's escape, the fiery cleric took over the government. Ayatollah Khomeini appeared, and overnight millions of Iranians found themselves living under a fundamentalist Shia theocracy. Khomeini's goons didn't just target ordinary Iranians. Less than a year after the Ayatollah's rise to power, a group of radical young students stormed the American embassy, inspired by his anti-American rhetoric. They kidnapped more than 50 Americans, holding them for over a year. Iran's reign of terror had begun. Iran is huge, but Khomeini's ambitions were bigger. He didn't just want to control his own country. He wanted to spread his version of Islam all over the globe, and he knew exactly how he wanted to do it: by terror. Ayatollah's men had already established a warm relationship with the Palestine Liberation Organization. But Khomeini didn't approve of the PLO style. He wanted to build a militia that was more in line with his own Islamist principles, and he knew just where to go. Southern Lebanon was full of Shia Muslims who had spent decades being neglected by the Lebanese elite. They were the perfect target: religious, disaffected. The Ayatollah's men built a well-trained, heavily armed guerrilla force made up of Lebanese Shias who are loyal to Iran. The militia had a grandiose name to match Khomeini's grandiose ambitions: the Party of God. In Arabic, Hezbollah. What Hezbollah brought next was history. When the Iranian regime says death to Israel, they mean it. And what's the best way to flatten a country of over 9 million people? Nuclear weapons. Iran had been interested in nuclear development since the 1950s. Under the Shah, they signed a non-proliferation treaty, agreeing not to develop nuclear weapons. But the Shah had been gone since 1979. The Iranian fundamentalists in charge today have no interest in non-proliferation, and there's no doubt that the regime cannot be trusted with nukes. Though no one will publicly take credit for sabotaging Iran's nuclear program, plenty of countries have a vested interest in delaying the country's ability to build the bomb.